Be sure and tell them Large Marge sent ya.
In the 90s, we were just teeny tykes. We went to movies and our bikes. We wanted to be DJs, but we were just teeny gals. So we went off to college and we remained as pals. 20 years later, we're still watching flicks and we're bringing you the favorite bit by bit. Sweetie and Sweetie are here to say it's the Large Marge Santa's podcast. Hey.
Hey guys, welcome to the Large Marge Tennis Podcast, your favorite podcast where two sweetie sisters and a baby talk about flicks that shaped their childhood. I'm Sweetie with an IE.
And I'm Sweetie with a Y.
Dang, that thing where we threw like one extra word in there.
You do that.
And it just messes you up.
Yeah.
Hey guys.
Hey.
What's up? So yes, we got our shit together this week and is recording tonight and doing a movie that sort of just like fell in our laps, if you will, because Sweetie and I coincidentally watched this movie. Didn't tell each other we were going to watch it.
I did. No,
Oh, you
you
did tell
told
me.
me you watched it, and I was like, "That's
Okay.
interesting." And
Rewind. This is what
Oh my-
happened.
okay.
I was at the library. I was looking with Sweetie Jimmy at the DVD selection. You know, libraries have insane DVD.
Yeah.
Libraries. They have everything. So it never even dawned on me to like go there and look for a movie. So we rented a horror movie, Annabelle. Have you ever seen that? The Conjuring, the prequel kind of thing. Very good. Not a good movie to watch right before or when you have a baby, let's say, because that one is all about this woman and like a demon trying to get the baby. So bad news. But we also rented The Outsiders. And this was based on me hearing a lot about this movie, knowing it was a big 80s movie, had a lot of famous people, not necessarily at the time, but who become very famous. And then I also had read this Vanity Fair article that Rob Lowe had written about his time auditioning for that. So watched that with Sweetie Jimmy one night. We'll talk about it. But then, Sweetie, what happened next?
And then I was in the library, but I was looking for a memoir because I like to include one when I go to the library and get my books. And so I remembered seeing, you read the audiobook too, or listened to the audiobook, you said.
Yeah, I listened to about half the audiobook, and then what tends to happen with audiobooks, you know, they're so long. They're
But
fucking like 20 hours long.
Vanity Fair was like an excerpt from that?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right. So I find Rob Lowe's memoir called Stories I Only Tell My Friends. And I was like, oh, yeah, Sweetie recommended this, so I'm going to get it. So I'm reading it, and it's, like, pretty crazy. There's, like, a lot of crazy shit in his life that just, like, coincidentally happened, allegedly. I don't buy it still, but whatever. Anyways, there's a whole, like, I would say probably, like, the most chapters are probably dedicated to the Outsiders, about the audition process, making the movie, what happened after the movie, just being in this cast with all these, like, guys who would go on to become these like 80s legends. So obviously I had heard that Sweetie watched The Outsiders recently, and so I was like testing her questions about it, and I was like, what's up with this, what's up with that? And then one night I was like, I'm just gonna watch The Outsiders. So I watched The Outsiders, and then an interesting thing happened, which I don't know how to explain this, but like, so when you go to stream the movie on Amazon, you like put it in. The one that comes up for you to stream is the novel version. And I was like, interesting. So I watch it just like not knowing like pretty much of anything. But I had heard Rob's story from the memoir being like, I had done all this work on these parts, my emotional scene where I cried, and then I went to the screening and they had cut all of that out and I was barely in the movie. So here I am expecting like Rob Lowe to barely be in this movie, and he's in this movie, and like all these scenes are happening that Rob Lowe was complaining about them taking out. And so I was like, what's going on here? And so I look it up and come to find out that the originally released version of this movie, we'll call it the theatrical release, is a completely different movie than this novel version. And the novel version was done by Francis Ford Coppola because his granddaughter, I guess, was doing this in school, but was too embarrassed to show the movie in class because it wasn't anything like the novel. So he was like, I got to fix that. I mean, people have been telling him this for like years, but like his granddaughter's like, meh. And then he's like, I'll do the whole thing again. So he recuts the whole movie, puts in like all the deleted scenes that he took out, and then released this in 2015. So I don't know if people are aware that there are two very different versions of this movie out there right now. And most of you people who are obsessed with this movie have only seen the original version of the film, not the novel version that I saw.
Right. Okay. So that's a really good explanation, Sweetie, of the two different versions of the movie. So Sweetie's only seen the novel version. I have now seen the original 1983 version and the novel version. Sweetie has read the book. So we're coming at you with a lot of outsiders information. Yeah, I guess like what synopsis do we do is going to be the question.
I was thinking just to do like an overview of the story, like what the themes are.
Wow.
Maybe not even get into super specific. I don't know, because I don't know. I struggle too, because I don't want people to be like, "What? That didn't happen."
I think we can do like a loose one and then just talk about. I mean, I think the novel one. Okay, because basically what they did is they have different beginnings and endings for the novel version. So it's just like a more complete version of the story. So I'd say do that one, and then I'm ready and prepared to discuss like. What scenes that they left out, and we can discuss like why. But first up, so Outsiders, 1983, a golden year, 'cause I was born, yeah. 1983, baby. So Francis Ford Coppola directed. Now you're like, okay, weird choice for director, maybe like Francis Ford Coppola. He's done pretty intense movies. What is this guy directing what was a pretty famous young adult, would you say young adult novel, taught in schools all across the country. Now, our school did not teach The Outsiders, correct, Sweetie? I never even heard of this.
Never heard of it, never read it. Confused this movie with Red Dawn for maybe 25 years of my life.
Okay.
It's confusing. But it's Patrick Swayze, right? I don't know. One has Russians, one doesn't. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
So it was a huge curriculum for a lot of kids, not for our, Nauset regional system, whatever. Interesting. So why did Francis Ford Coppola direct this movie? So apparently, like, the kids are reading this book all over, and this class in Fresno, California, in middle school, has some contest to choose like who would direct this movie if they made a movie of this book, and it all came down to Francis Ford Coppola. They write to him, tell him, "Yo, Francis, can you direct this movie of this book?" And he does. Crazy.
He's a people pleaser. Who knew?
I don't know. Totally. So the book by S.E. Hinton, I believe, who was a woman. Interesting little strategy there. When you use your initials and you're a woman and you're writing about, let's say, more masculine themes. Do you think that's why she did it?
Yes, I believe her publishers instructed her to do that, because they didn't think people would believe that a woman could write a book with that subject matter.
Or men would not read this book. Little boys would not read this book if a woman wrote it.
Is your microphone in front of your face or to the side? It looks like it's to the side. It's freaking me out a little bit.
Hello? It's
like,
recording. That's all that matters.
Is it right in front of your mouth?
Yeah, I think so.
No, see how mine's like immediately in front of my mouth?
Well, it is to the side, but it's the only way it can fit.
What? Where are you? Gosh, virtual
I'm in a hole.
podcasting, everyone.
I'm in a mom hole.
That's how it is. Yes. Sure. Yeah, a little of both. But because it's taught in school, boys don't really have a choice. So maybe that wasn't
true. And it was like a big school book. So, as we were talking about, when Francis Ford Coppola decided to do this movie, he had sort of an interesting way to do the casting call for this, right? So, Sweetie, you just read the book. Maybe fill them in on what good old Rob Lowe said.
Wow. Rob said so many things. So, first of all, Rob Lowe, you should know at this point that Rob Lowe is friends with the Sheens. So Charlie Sheen, Emilio Estevez, and then their father, Martin Sheen, he's consulted with at this point. He knows, I mean, Martin Sheen just got back from doing Apocalypse Now with Francis Ford Coppola, which was like, as far as I understand it, a goddamn nightmare in the jungle, ending in which of like
He had a
Marlon
heart attack,
Brando
didn't
being
he?
too fat, and so he had to do all of his scenes lying down. Like, it was crazy. So
No, and didn't Martin Sheen have a heart attack?
yeah, and Martin Sheen had a fucking heart attack. Like, whoa. So he's like asking his advice, like, should I do this audition? And Martin was like, yeah, I mean, yeah, you do it, but like, Rob, don't let him talk you into anything you're not comfortable with or something. And he was like, okay, thanks. So the whole audition process is insane. They have like 30 boys, all different ages, just reading for all the parts in an auditorium. Basically, they're all there. They're just like swapping out roles left and right.
And like traditionally, if you're auditioning for a movie, you like go in for one role, right? So you're like, I'm gonna read for like.
You go in for
Whatever,
one
Ponyboy.
role. Sometimes they'll have you read for another character, but you're not usually with all the other people you're auditioning with. Granted, it is a big ensemble, but the like watching other people audition, I think, is like was the weird thing, the specific weird thing, and just how many of them there were. So I mean, he has a couple buddies he sees and whatever. So he gets pretty far in the audition. He's like one of the top like 12 or something. They bring in more people from New York, including Ralph Macchio and Pat Swayze was New York
Pat.
too. Yeah, and so they're like, okay, interesting. Matt Dillon comes in. He was a little more like big news than the rest of them. Like had kind of like really made a name for himself at this point, I think. Or no, I guess he was just having a name for himself because he was like so attractive. So just like the casting people were just like head over heels with this. They're like, he's going to be the one. So eventually, Rob finds out he did get the part that he wanted, which was the character Soda Pop. And so he and all his buddies fucking like make it in this film. So they are Patrick Swayze, who he did not know, but Pat Swayze gets cast as Dallas, like the elder brother.
Daryl.
Oh my God, what did I say?
Dallas was
Okay. This is going to confuse me because they're both D's and both of their nicknames are Derry and Dally. Like, what the fuck, Essie? Like, come on. So, anyways, yeah, Derry, he plays the eldest Curtis brother.
As we just said, Rob Lowe as Soda Pop, the middle
Curtis brother.
And C. Thomas Howell as Ponyboy, which I think is kind of the one guy who made it out of here with nothing. Didn't continue to be famous, right? Like,
I don't know. Well, so his other, obviously, he's in the brother in E.T., right? Non-Elliot in E.T. That's his big thing.
what? No.
Isn't he the brother from E.T.?
No. No. Definitely not.
Why are you making an ew face? He's a
No,
fine
I don't think
person.
so. No,
I read the
because
biography.
you're so wrong is why I made that
This
face.
is why.
But wow,
I mean,
I'd
Rob
be
Lowe
surprised.
said it in the thing. My keyboard's
Rob
not
Lowe
working,
is
so
a liar.
I can't verify it. But you should look it up.
No, maybe he was in it. He was one of the friends.
Pretty sure he's the
can kinda
brother.
see-
He's the brother.
No, the brother looks totally different.
This was when was E.T.?
80 before this, maybe 86. I don't know. You should look it up. Do you have your computer handy?
Yes, but my keyboard's not plugged in. I told you. Okay. You have to do it on yours. Go on.
Oh my God. Okay, keep going with the cast list.
Okay. And then their kind of like buddies are Emilio Estevez is 2-bit. What's his name? 2-bit Tompkins or something.
Yeah.
No, that's not him. 2-bit something, but he's just 2-bit. Fucking Ralph Macchio plays sweet kid named Johnny. Matt Dillon plays Dallas or Dally, who's like this really rough around the edges greaser who's like in the cooler for a while. That's slang for jail. And yeah, he's just like super hot bad boy, pretty much is like his shtick. And then Tom Cruise plays crazy Randy? No, what's his name? Oh my God, I can't even remember anybody's fucking name. What's Tom Cruise? Johnny? No, that's Ralph Macchio. Tom Cruise. Lenny.
I forget, but it's another like normal name. Okay, so the brother in E.T. is an actor named Robert McNaughton, but C. Thomas Howell is it? His name is Tyler. He's one of that guy's friends.
Okay, there you go.
So they ride the bikes. They ride the bikes over the moon. You know,
I'll have to check the book because I'm pretty sure Rob Lowe made an error in saying he was the brother in E.T. So more reasons why he can't be trusted. So I think that's all the greasers. Did I miss anyone?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think that was all of them. And then we have a very young Diane Lane as the only girl in the film.
Steve
is Tom Cruise, right? Yes. Steve. And then Cherry's the girl from the Socs. And then there's like some Socs, including Leif Garrett. Leif Garrett?
Yeah.
Is that how you say his name?
Mm-hmm.
What's his deal again?
He was a big singer, in like the 70s, like a Tiger Beat teenage heartthrob.
Right.
But he had done acting prior to being this big pop star. So he was like a child actor, I guess. So it wasn't like a whole. But at that time, during this movie, the making of this movie, so 1983, again, he was the most famous person in the cast, which is kind of interesting when you think about it. And that's why I said on my Instagram story, I just felt like this was like the best, most famous ensemble cast that really didn't know it yet because these guys weren't really famous. Like, so Tom Cruise, for instance, like had the script for Risky Business, and he also made like a bunch of other movies this year. Ralph Macchio the next year would make Karate Kid. You know, Dirty Dancing was 2 years away or 3 years away from this for Pat Swayze. Matt Dillon, obviously a whole slew of stuff. Rob Lowe, St. Elmo's Fire. So this was like they were going to be these huge stars, and they just like this was just like their kickoff basically. So yeah, crazy amount of star power. It is like blinding. I don't know what to do about it. And it's cool to see them all as like such little tiny fetuses. I mean, not Pat Swayze, because Pat was the oldest of the cast. He was 29. So,
and he's supposed to be like 18 or something, right? Yeah.
And like Ralph Macchio was 20 when, he looks 12. That kid it's
insane.
terrifying how young he looks.
How tall is Ralph Macchio? Trivia.
Yeah. Why? You think he looks tall or small?
Small. Well, I'm just wondering what is his height in general? Like, he's like a little peanut.
Yeah.
He was that tall at
and like
19.
so skinny.
Yeah.
And then all the other ones were, I think, under. Someone else was 22, but everyone else was like under 18. And yeah, so really just kind of like starting out their careers. So very, very interesting. What else?
Nothing much. I think we can. Yeah, I think we should just kick it off.
Just go into the plot.
See what happens.
Yeah, see what happens. It's going to be a wild ride. It's time for the sweetie synopsis. Yeah,
sweeties.
Whoa.
Hello.
Nothing gold can stay.
Stay gold, Ponyboy. That's like the line.
Stay gold.
Yeah.
Stay gold, Ponyboy.
Yeah.
No, but this is the
But the famous
the line
one.
from the poem. The line from the Robert Frost poem.
Yeah. Okay.
Stay gold, Ponyboy.
All right. Oklahoma, 1950s, I guess. We are in the midst of a battle, a turf war. Not really a turf war, but like a social battle, I want to say, I guess. I don't know. So on one side, we have the greasers who live on like the poor side of town. And they have longer hair that is greasy because they're poor and they like can't take showers. Or are they putting oil in their hair to slick it back, like in Grease? I'm confused. I thought it was
I want to say
Grease.
that if you listen to this podcast, previous episodes, you know my favorite thing to call people who wear like 50s attire out of the 50s era are greasers.
Greasers, sweeties.
And now I know why. I'm so pumped that I never saw this movie, but I was like taking it basically from that movie.
Well, you were taking it from Grease.
Right. Okay, sorry. You're right.
Grease.
True.
Different, little different version of Grease, but kind of the same. But like that's,
True.
but interesting. So yeah, the Greasers are like a little rough around the edges. They like to get into like what the fight's called, rumbles.
Rumbles.
And they smoke cigarettes and steal things. Usually, is their vibe. And then the other opposing side is the Socias, which is short for like social elite, who are the rich kids who just main goal in life is to beat up the Greasers. So it's a battle. It's
So
ugly.
rude.
It's ugly. So main characters, really, we're meeting the Curtis brothers. So like we said, Ponyboy's the youngest, Soda Pop, and then Daryl. So Ponyboy is walking home from the movies one day. He likes going to the movies.
What's their deal again? So they're orphaned, right?
Yes. These boys have lost their parents in a car accident. So they're all each other has. And Daryl, the eldest, is really like taking care of them. Has a job. The middle one also has a job at a gas station. He dropped out of school. So they're all they have, really. But Ponyboy's like sweet. He's the youngest of like all the characters in the book, I think, or in the movie.
14.
But he has like an artistic soul. He's like one of the few ones who is like good at school and is still in school. So he's very peculiar, that Ponyboy. So he's walking home from the movies and he gets jumped by a bunch of Socias. And it's right by his house, so he's screaming, and then his brothers and their friends come out and like chase the Socias away. So they're like all concerned about him, and I guess they held a blade to his neck, and like he's bleeding a little bit, so it's pretty serious.
Yeah. I'm so uncomfortable. Like they seem to like to do all these like rumbles and love to like jump each other, all these two groups. But like the use of the knives, whoa, like okay, like beat up people, that's fine, but like what's going on with the knife use?
It's when it gets serious.
Sketch.
Well, it's
I
always
know.
about like protecting yourself, because you don't know what's going to happen. You could get jumped by a bunch of guys on your way home and not defend yourself, so you have a knife, you're okay. I don't know.
Crazy. What a life.
It's tough. It's tough out there. So they're pretty pissed about this, and then Johnny, the other greaser, also got beat up by a bunch of Socias like a couple of weeks before, and had is having like basically PTSD about Socias beating him up. So he's struggling. He's struggling, and his dad beats him up too, which is like interesting. Poor Johnny. So now there's kind of like this double, like they were already mad at each other, these two groups, but now there's kind of like this heightened like anger towards them, because they're like, they came after two of ours like twice, blah, blah, blah. So what happens? The drive-in?
Yeah. Yep.
So then, Ponyboy, Johnny, and
Meet up with
Dallas
Dallas.
are at the drive-in.
fresh out from the clink.
Right. So, yeah, they see these two, like, nice Soch girls, and Dallas starts being, like, rude to them. And Diane Lane is the girl, Cherry, though her name is Sherry. But her hair is red, so they call her Cherry. It's crazy when you, like, introduce yourself as your nickname. You're, like, you really, I don't know. Like, when does it reach that point? I don't know. But
It's cute, but maybe it's also like partly like sexual.
Ooh, yeah, gross.
Pop and cherry, virgin. I don't know.
Ew.
That was my thought.
Sick.
Sick.
So she appears to hate Dallas, and Ponyboy and Johnny save the fucking day and are nice to her and her friend, and so they really take a liking to Johnny and Ponyboy. And unfortunately, their boyfriends come back. They're with boyfriends who were drunk, so they ditched them. But they come back, see that they're with the greasers, and like flip out. So now this hostility is just like growing and feeding this fire of like anger and this, this feud, this battle. A couple things about dynamics, I guess. Ponyboy, although he loves his middle brother, Soda Pop, his elder brother, is kind of mean to him, he feels, and like always gives him a hard time about stuff and is like never pleased. So he's kind of having like a hard time at home lately. he freaks out because Daryl like hit him by accident when they were fighting. So he runs away and basically like gets Johnny and is like, let's run away. And so they go to the park and they're like hanging out, having a good time. And then I think they're like going to do something. And then a car approaches in the background and you're like, oh, fuck. So here come the Socias, the same ones who are pissed that these two kids stole their girlfriends, is what they think anyways. So what happens next?
So they so one of them like subdues Johnny, and Johnny has a knife, so he's smart. He carries a knife with him, but he's like subdued on the ground. And the others take Ponyboy and remember, so Ponyboy, what they think like stole Cherry from Leif Garrett's character, who one of the Socias, right? Bob. So they're really like after him. You know, that's their target. So there's this fountain. They're in this park, and they hold his head underwater, and essentially, like, are they going to drown him?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not 100% sure. Okay, you think so? Yeah. So it looks like they're going to kill him.
Maybe by accident. I mean, I'm sure by accident. Like,
Yeah.
I don't.
So Johnny had, like I said, is subdued by one of the guys on the ground, but he has severe PTSD from when he was beaten up.
Yeah.
And he sees Leif Garrett has this ring, and he's like, that's the guy who beat me up. He has like a mark on his face or something, or his hand or for something where the ring like hit him. So he just like turns into like a rage machine, like gets the guy off of him and comes at the Steve guy with a knife and kills him. Now, everything then goes black, and then you see it from the Ponyboy's perspective. He wakes up like he had passed out. And he sees like Johnny on the ground next to him, and then Steve like bleeding.
Steve
Bob?
is Tom Cruise.
Oh, sorry. Bob.
God, all these
Bleeding out
regular
dead.
ass names.
He has been murdered.
Dead. He dead.
Murdered.
Yeah, and Johnny's like, I killed him. I killed him. He was gonna drown. He was gonna drown you. I had to kill him. So he's freaked out. They're all upset, so they don't know what to do. So they're like, Dallas will know what to do because he was in the cooler. So he's like, he knows how to help a dude. Yeah. So they go to see him at his like frat house or wherever he's living. I don't know. Just like seemed like a party.
Yeah,
house.
I don't know
like,
what that
whoa,
was.
This is fun.
Yeah, that seems like a brothel.
So he has like a whole plan, gives them like a gun, tells them to jump on this train and go to this like abandoned church and then like wait there get food and like wait there for like a week or something. So that's the plan. So they go, they do that. They end up dyeing their hair and cutting their hair. Well, just dyeing Ponyboy's and cutting his hair, and then cutting Johnny's hair, because their descriptions in the newspaper at this point from the fact that like whoever killed like the other boys who were there who ran away saw them, so they gave their description to the police. So they're hiding out. They're really bonding. Johnny's still like pretty fucked up. Finally, Dallas comes to get them. They go to this like to Dairy Queen, which I don't know. Like, did Dairy Queen as a thing, as a concept, not come into play until after the 50s, or was this just like
No.
was this a Dairy Queen?
Yeah,
or
it
just
existed
happened to
then.
be called
It's
Dairy
a-
Queen.
It's a very old franchise.
Good. Yeah. So yeah, they go there. They're getting food, and then Johnny, I think, it decides he wants to turn himself in. Or is that just in the book? Because that definitely happened in the book.
Oh, okay. I forget. I thought like Dallas comes and gets him once it kind of like had blown over or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, they're like doing something. They're going back to the church. Church is on fire, and then there's like all these school kids outside and a teacher, and he's like, "We're having a picnic," and they're like, "We're missing some kids," and then they hear like screaming inside the church. The kids are in the church, fucking dummies. They probably set the fire. I just don't know. Sweetie and I both were like, why were those kids at this abandoned church in the middle of nowhere in Oklahoma?
Hey kids, guess where we're going on a field trip
On a
today?
picnic
This like
to this
condemned abandoned
sketchy
church.
abandoned church where like drug addicts shoot up.
Oh yeah. So I was like, I'm like, this can't be. I was convinced that was like not in the book, and they used it as like a clever plot device, because I was like, this makes no sense at all. But
It's
I
word
guess it
for
has to
word
be.
in the
Yeah.
book. They go to a
That's
picnic
crazy.
and then they lose sight of a couple kids, and they're in,
Okay.
turns out they're
the
in the
picnic
church.
makes a little bit more sense because that was not in the movie at all. It's just like it looks like they like were visiting At first, I was like, "Oh, maybe the church like wasn't abandoned. Maybe it like was in use, and they were going there for some reason." I don't know.
You're right. I don't think.
Anyways,
Yeah, they don't. It was really confusing.
It's bad news.
in the movie. But anyways, so Johnny the hero and Ponyboy the hero are like, we gotta save those kids. So they go into the burning building. They get most of the kids out, and then to get the last one out, Johnny has to like basically sacrifice himself because the church kind of like caves in. He like catches on fire. Dallas gets Ponyboy out, and Johnny does get out, but he's like clearly been severely burned, very badly burned. So, it's upsetting. On the other hand, they're heroes now. So kind of it's like, oh, yeah, we killed the guy, but like we're actually heroes. Don't worry.
Is that how that works? Are you?
I mean, I don't know if they knew that they killed those kids yet because they didn't like confess, but I don't know.
Okay.
So
it is basically forgotten. Like they
they
write
have
this
a
newspaper
trial.
Right. That is like, I guess, at the end, which is not in the movie that I saw. There is no trial, but.
Oh, right. Yeah. So here they go to the hospital. They're, whatever that happens. Johnny's in really bad shape and like critical condition. He has to like lie like on his stomach because his back is all the part that's burned. So like pretty gnarly. And then Dallas is like pretty pissed, shook up about it, I guess. Oh no, not yet. And then what happens? Oh, and then they have the Rumble.
Right. So they decide, first they, Ponyboy, like, basically comes back to, he's a hero and everything like that. He has like a meeting in a car with one of the Socs who's like really nice and is like, yeah, man, it's kind of like bullshit.
Watson?
What's going on? Like, blah, blah, blah. And they kind of have some like kind of weird understanding. Just with that guy, though. I don't really know why or why
he's kind of like,
was,
I think he's like done with the Socs.
the fighting.
He's like, I don't want to do this anymore.
But like a rumble has already been planned. So Daryl has contacted his friend Tin, who seems to be like the leader of like this much more bigger community of greasers and like older
gang, if you will.
Gang. So they're going to get together and do this rumble. They communicate that to the Socs, and they're like, okay, we're meeting like in the park, like on Sunday at 8:00, whatever. So they're all like pumped about it. And so all the guys are going to go. And at first, Daryl wasn't going to let Ponyboy go, but then they decide, he can come. So then it's an old-fashioned West Side Story rumble, man.
Yeah.
And it's just like crazy
punches,
beating the shit out of each other.
only like punching,
no weapons.
no weapons. So you just hopefully no one dies is the idea behind that. They're just like, getting out the steam, who will win. Turns out the greasers win, huzzah. They're all excited, they're pumped. They're like, let's go tell Johnny. So they like hightail it to the hospital. Turns out Johnny's in like even worse shape. He's kind of dying. And they have this goodbye kind of like sad, upsetting moment, and it like really fucks up Dallas. He like can't handle this, so he like busts out of the hospital like fucking, oh, I'm so bad, blah, blah, blah. And fucking gets shot by the cops because he likes to point unloaded guns at police officers, which is like bad habit to get into, Dallas. But he gets shot and then dies in the street, and so very upsetting. 2 deaths in one night, basically. Sad. So then there's this kind of like bullshit trial. Cherry, the girl, comes forward and is like, I saw it, like, or I don't know. She gives some like defense that like makes it okay for them. They get to stay with Daryl as their caretaker, and so all is good. Except that Johnny's dead in Dallas. So, so then there's just kind of like life goes on. Ponyboy finds like a sweet note from Johnny in Gone with the Wind, which was a book he was reading to him out loud in the church. And they had this like sweet conversation about this Robert Frost poem, which Sweetie quoted at the start of the episode. And then basically it's just Johnny being like, I know what he means. Like when you're a kid, everything's golden and like fun and beautiful, but then as soon as you grow older, like that's when like it becomes like not and so you want to stay golden. So the line is like, stay golden, Ponyboy. And that's it. And then it's like he's basically being like, it was worth rescuing those kids. I'm okay at peace with the fact that like I'm dying. Like I'm glad we saved those kids. Like tell Dallas it was worth it. That kind of like I don't know. He's a changed boy basically. That Johnny. Yeah. And then he died. So he's kind of like a martyr, I guess. In a way. Because then they're kind of all like, wow, yeah, this is kind of stupid that we're in this game. Because hopefully what happens is Ponyboy realizes like gotta get this act together. I can't end up like in this. I have to get out of here basically.
Right. Because the thing with Ponyboy is that he didn't want, he was really good at school and liked the arts, as Sweetie said, big movie buff. But he didn't want to choose that path because obviously it's a bit tainted from like the class system kind of thing. He wants to be like his friends and his brothers.
He wants to be like his brothers and like also make money to like keep them afloat.
Right. Yeah. So he doesn't want to do that other side of things, but they really tell him, and his brother tells him like, you got to do it. Like, don't waste this talent. A little like Goodwill Hunting style.
So then he becomes
like Goodwill Hunting.
a writer and decides to write basically this whole story. So it's like, oh my God, full circle. So yeah, that's it. Really cute, really sweet. A lot of people love this movie. A lot of fans of The Outsiders. And I didn't see the original version, but I heard a rumor from Rob Lowe in the book that it was not very well received, this movie, when it came out. And it's really kind of only taken up like a cult following kind of like after the fact, as many movies in the 80s do, I think. This one in particular had a huge... It did do well, I will tell you, with the 14-year-old girl demographic, primarily because of the cast and specifically Rob Lowe was like the stud of the movie that everybody was obsessed with.
He is very pretty.
He's such a pretty boy, and it's like it's just like flawless. It's funny.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
So yeah, I mean, it was popular because of that. But then I think I'm sure a lot of boys loved it. My friend Johnny, this is like his favorite movie. I can see how like little boys would relate to this movie and be like, whoa, like this is dope. I don't know if we had seen it when we were younger, if we would have liked it. I don't know. I honestly don't know what the world would be like if we saw it. I don't know. I feel like it wouldn't have been our cup of tea because we're like, I don't know. I don't like fighting all the time.
Yeah. And while I respect the movie, I don't think it was very good.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say.
And I think, I don't know, it just feels very dated to me. It felt really cheesy in a, like, you could see what they were trying to do, but just did not work. And a little bit boring. I don't know. It was for a movie about like rumbling and all that stuff.
It's a lot of Well, the novel version is a lot of talking. The original one is too.
A lot of talking, and you have this weird dynamic where these guys are like real tough guys. And they carry knives, but they're like very sensitive, and they're crying all of
and like
the time,
hugging each other, and like cuddling,
touching each other.
It is very interesting, and so that was the first thing that struck me. I was like, this movie's very gay, and like that's great. Like I love that, and obviously I'm all for like boys showing their like sensitive side. But the book is very much like that too. Like a lot of it, they're described like hugging each other. That whole scene in the bed with Soda Pop and Ponyboy like spooning happens in the book also. And so you think because she's a woman, and like I hate to say this because obviously like go feminism, but it does feel like I can tell it's a woman writing this because of that stuff.
Is there any chance that we see, there's obviously a lot of toxic masculinity now. Is it at all an option that like affection between men was normal at that time?
Do you remember?
Like we look at it, it seems gay, but like for that, the time frame and the location, like is there a chance that was pretty normal to just like constantly like wrestling?
They weren't hugging and cuddling in Greece. That's all I have to say. There's no other depiction. There's all the other depictions we have of like things from this time. This isn't there. Like, I mean, like being affectionate seemed to be fairly frowned upon in the same camp as like showing romance in public. Like you just, I mean, you did it lightly, but definitely not with somebody of the same sex. And like,
right. And that's what kind of fell off. And if you remember the controversy from a couple months ago, I want to say, where someone tweeted to S.E. Hinton, like, wow, like, I think like these characters are gay. And she's like, they aren't gay. I didn't write them like that. And it was this kind of huge to do.
Sounds like J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, exactly. And she got a lot of shit for it and refused to sort of, like, she stood her ground basically and said, my characters aren't gay. Like, and like, whatever, like you obviously as a reader, you interpret it however you fucking want. Like, it doesn't matter. She can say they're not gay and that's okay. You can say that they are and that's okay too. Like, it's all about interpretation, right? But it just like caused like a big uproar when she wouldn't say, as like I think most writers should, as what I just said, basically, hey, like, do whatever you want. Like, I wrote this to be consumed and read by different people who have, reading is subjective. So, you're going to read something and you're going to take it differently than, sweet. Like, I'm going to read something and Sweetie's going to take it differently because she is, a different person. So, anyways, but yeah, it felt, and just like the like filming choices that they made, this like pretty cheesy Stevie Wonder song that it's like the theme.
It's like gold. Yeah. It's interesting choices. Yeah. Francis.
I was just like, ooh. And then like, so the kind of like main thing, like we said, is the nothing gold can stay, is this a line from this Robert Frost poem that Ponyboy recites when they're like watching the sunrise one day. Sunset. It's not sunrise?
No, sunrise. Maybe sunrise.
Yeah, because they talk about the dawn or whatever.
Right.
And he like sees the sunrise and then just like whips out this poem. And Johnny's like, whoa, like, where'd you learn that? And he like learned it in school. But it's like this weird, like glowing, bad backdrop. Like everyone is kind of like fuzzy in this sort of like romanticized way. Oh man, it was like it was up
the
weird.
Times. Yeah.
Right. So it just felt very 80s dated, which is great in like a lot of ways.
Which
also just felt like
people love it probably.
Yeah. And it's not a bad movie by any means. It's good. It's good. But it's cheesy.
Yeah, and the novel version is exactly like the novel. So the other fun thing I did was like, oh, I'm just gonna like just take a gander at the book real quick. So then I proceed to like speed read the whole book in like an hour and a half, basically. And I'm like, done. And then here's what I've gathered. The book is exactly like this novel version of the movie, like word for word. I don't think there's a scene in that book that's not in the movie. Okay. So really impressive. So anyone who was unhappy with the adaptation of the original not being close to the novel, you should check out this version. Came out a couple years ago. Rob Lowe had not seen his scenes until that version came out, which is like very heartwarming to me because he was like complaining about that for most of the book, his memoir. So I'm like so glad he got his due. And it is interesting because I'm like looking at it, the whole picture, I can kind of understand why they cut that scene out. And like the book, I would say, focuses probably more on the relationship of the three Curtis brothers. The movie certainly thinks it's important, but I think the entire relationship of all the boys, and specifically Johnny and Ponyboy, is the thing that the movie's really trying to like present to you. So that scene at the end when Soda Pop is freaking out and like crying and all emotional, it's kind of weird because like we don't really know him that well, like right. Soda Pop. So like I get it. I get why they cut it out, but poor Rob, like he worked really hard on that scene, and he did it. He did nice. He cried real tears.
But I think this like begs the discussion. Movies don't have to be that I know people get very upset when their favorite book gets turned into a movie and then they leave all this stuff out. Like, I do get that. But I don't think that's the point of turning, like, a movie into a book. I don't think you should include everything that's in a book. I think that's wrong.
Yeah.
And they're going to make creative choices in the film to leave stuff out and what to keep and what to leave out, right? So, you know, I think in the case of this movie, it had a lot to do with running time, so they didn't want it to be that long. So that was probably part of it. And also just like crafting it to be, like you said, the message that you want it to be. So was it more about the relationship with the brothers, or was it more important to say like more, you know, discussion about the soch and the greasers and this sort of like, you know, what do you call it, divide that was happening in Oklahoma at this time? Like, are you making a statement about, you know, the loss of childhood? And for these greasers who really had to grow up really fast because they were poor, what does that mean when you're poor and like you really don't have a childhood because, you know, you have to quit school to work to support people, or like you're getting beat up and you're dealing with all this heavy shit, right? So it's like and that's a little bit more interesting to me. It's not. I don't want every movie to be made from a book to include every single bit of it. I just don't think that's necessary. Good for Francis Ford Coppola for being scared of children and needing to like
like 2 times. It's like
that
okay,
seems
I'll
like
do what you
really
say.
yeah, like really. I don't know Francis Ford Coppola personally, but that does not seem like something that like he would do. But whatever. Anyways, cool. Okay, so I just want to go into, now that I've seen both of them, which scenes that they left out and which ones that they kept. Okay, so they leave out the whole first scene, which is very long, which is when they kind of show you why there's this big feud between the Socs and the greasers. So like Ponyboy gets beat up, you get introduced to all his little buddies. There's this very homoerotic scene where the brothers are cuddling and really acting like lovers in bed. Kind of talking about like I forgot what they're talking about. What happened that day or something. Hello, Earth to Sweetie. Sorry. Hello.
I was trying to check something, but forgot my keyboard
cuddling
wasn't
scene.
working. What about the cuddling scene?
What are they talking about in bed?
Like life.
Right.
Soda Pop's like, I'm gonna marry this girl. I'm really
Right.
excited
So it
about
seems like kind of gay, but then they're talking about girls that they like. So it kind of like takes
well, they're
it like
brothers.
out
Like
of
I
that.
know they're not gay. Like they're not
Right.
gay. They're brothers. But like it's just surprising to see that juxtaposition of these really tough boys who are still like very cuddly and sweet with each other, which I guess shows that they are still children, whether
Right.
like you
Okay.
believe that or not. I guess
Good point.
now
Good
that
point.
I think about it, like I totally get it. It makes sense.
Yeah.
But
Totally
it is
good
funny
point.
to watch it because it's like I've just never seen a brother like spoon his brother in a movie lately. Like I just don't see that often. So it was exciting.
And it was
like,
more than
funny.
spooning. It was even just like the way that they were
He was
talking
like-
to each
yeah.
other and the
It's like-
poses. And I think there was
Yeah.
some stroking involved. I don't know.
Total
Seemed a little
strokes.
strange. So the
Strokes.
1983 Cut movie starts with they are just meeting Dallas like outside of like a store, and then they walk to the drive-in and do that whole thing. The Van Morrison song Gloria is playing, and it just like starts right up. So like, and then you see Ponyboy, this is really confusing to me, had like this, what was like a scab under his neck from what you do find out was when he
and
had
you
that
don't even know what
altercation
that
with them.
is from.
So I'm looking at this scab and being like, what is that? That's
Looks
like
like
a
a
crazy
mole.
mole or
Yeah.
birthmark on this guy's
Yeah,
face.
that's funny.
So it's like, that's always a problem when you're cutting out scenes and there's like, you know, obviously there's markings or like whatever. Very, very strange. Okay, Ponyboy single scene. Okay, they randomly left out when they like the old men are digging for oil. Like when they get to, they're looking for the old
And
church.
they're like, which way is the
And
church?
they're like, which way is J Peak
Weird.
or something like that. Randomly they left that out. I have
Okay.
no idea why. They left out the scene where Tim is on the couch and like is like at the house, and Ponyboy's like, "Hey Tim," and he's just like on the couch, and Tim's like, "Bye," and then
that
leaves.
was weird.
Do you remember
I was
that
like,
part?
who are you? Yeah.
So they leave that part out, but that does then introduce like, okay, so
Now
Tim,
you know who
you don't
he
know
is.
who Tim is, but then when you see him in the Rumble, you're like, oh,
It's
Tim.
Tim.
Yeah.
Go to.
When Johnny's mom visits the hospital and is like, that's my son, like, I want to see him, they left that part out. The whole trial ending, so that is not in the 83 and the 83 version. They really just end with Dallas dying in the street, and then they have Ponyboy finding the letter from Johnny in the Gone with the Wind book and him reading Johnny's letter. And oh, that's the other part that I thought was really cheesy, when like Johnny's like angel face is like floating and like doing the voiceover.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, whose choice was that? Like,
know.
you do
It's
not
strange.
need that for a voiceover. Like, totally do not need Johnny's like angel face floating. Very weird. So that whole thing is different. They don't have him like at school talking to the principal about continuing his studies. So like this, that whole thing. So interesting. So really the main things being the beginning and the end. Vastly different. Big part of the ending, though I guess the message is the same. So cut the runtime down by a good, I forget, it was like quite a chunk of time. So they got it under.
Oh, really? I mean, I feel like the novel version was like an hour and a half, though. Like, it didn't, like, I remember looking at the runtime and being like, wow, cool.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess they like made it even shorter. It still felt long. I mean, it felt like a long movie. So yeah, so there you have it. So those are like, they're not, and I think they might have added like, I don't know, that might not be all the scenes. That's the only ones I could like really figure out when I was watching it. But yeah, interesting idea. The novel version.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'd love to hear people's takes on those of you, if you've only seen the original. Have you seen the novel version? Did you not know it existed? Are you going to watch it? Tell me what you think. Like, I'm just very interested in this. This experiment of like, I don't know, like if this had been the version that was used originally, would it have performed differently? I don't know. Maybe. Like, maybe it's a tighter move. What's your opinion? Do you think one version is better than the other? The novel version, because it explains more?
Yeah, I thought that was fine. I liked, like I said, the beginning when you get an introduction of all the characters. So you get introduction to the main greasers, who are all these famous, dudes we've been talking about. In the 1983 version, they just kind of get like dropped in, and you don't really know like as much about them. So I appreciated seeing them all interact in the beginning. And also because, watching this in 2021, those guys are all really, really famous, as we've said. So you're just like thinking that they have more to do in the movie. And in the 83 version, as I told Sweetie, like Rob Lowe is like barely in it. He's in like 2 scenes. And I was like really disappointed when I watched it.
Which is
and
what he
Tom
says in
Cruise
his
too.
memoir. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was prepared for that. So then when I started watching it and he was in the movie, I was like, what? Liars? I knew Rob was lying to me. And then I read the IMDb trivia, figured it out.
Yeah.
So don't
and
worry.
That totally does suck. I mean, I can't imagine doing all that work and it's like a total mystery to you until you see the movie in the premiere or whatever. Like, where's my part? It's so embarrassing. And you're like, oh, okay, I'm like, all your friends come and you're like, can't wait to see you, Rob. Like, yeah, it's your big role. And you're in like one scene of the movie.
It's so sad. Poor Rob. But I'm glad he got to see it and that other people get to see it now.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so question for you. Do you like Ponyboy better as a blonde or a brunette?
Geesh. I mean, I hate... The blonde is weird, but there's something like strangely interesting about it to me. I don't know why. It just makes him a more interesting person, I guess. So
That guy is an interesting looking fella, let's say.
Sure.
He has huge eyes.
I think he's...
So
I don't know.
these like big eyes, kind of, I would say like not as heart-throbby as like maybe some of the other guys.
Yeah. I mean, it keeps
but
him an individual, so I vote blonde.
No, definitely. I know, but it was also like a Prince Valiant cut.
Well, it was a hack job because they had to do it with the like really dull little switchblade that like hurt. So it was pretty bad,
Well,
both of them.
So I love like, so he's like, so this is Johnny's big idea. Like, hey man, like your description's in the paper. We got to dye your hair blonde. So he like goes to the store. He gets like, what do they eat?
Peroxide.
Like spam,
bologna?
beans. Oh, the bologna. I was like, oh god, bologna, bread, like just some basic groceries. And then he gets like bleach to dye his hair. And then Johnny's like, okay, like you gotta change my look too. And they basically just cut like 1 inch from like behind like the back of his hair, and he's like, okay, good. So like he basically like looks the same, and they have Ponyboy like completely change his hair color. I would have been like,
Ponyboy.
dude, like why did I have to dye my hair?
What's up with
but-
bologna? What is bologna again? What is that made out of? Is it
What is
spam?
bologna? No, it's just like all different meat. It's like all
What?
the reject meat, isn't it?
Sick. I don't know.
My
We've
bologna has
never
a
had
first
bologna.
name. It's OSCAR.
Have you ever had bologna?
I have had bologna. This kid I used to babysit loved bologna sandwiches, and he loved goldfish. So I would
Hunter
put,
Stetson?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'd put goldfish in his bologna sandwich, and we
Wow.
called them fishy sandwiches.
Real treat.
And so it was one of those things where like I obviously like wasn't telling the mom what I was doing, but the kid loved it. So then like when I wasn't there, he'd be like, I want a fishy sandwich. And the mom would be like, what the hell is that? So she finally like was like, have you been making fishy sandwiches for my son? Not like she thought it was great, but I just love that. Yeah, so I had bologna with him. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. My friend has this like her drunk snack used to be bologna with peanut butter.
Ew.
Yeah,
What's
that
happening?
seems yucky, but
Wow.
probably pretty good. Randomly, you put like peanut butter or anything, it's good because it's savory and sweet, guys. Okay, what other questions do I have for you? Okay, don't you think it's weird that the Curtis family, the first kid that pops out, they're like, Daryl, and then the second kid that pops out, they're like, soda pop. Weird, right?
And then the third kid, Ponyboy.
Yeah, Ponyboy.
It's like, I don't know. Did the dad get crazy?
Well, our friend Johnny informed me that in the book it says that the mom named Daryl, the dad named the 2 other kids, and they
I
do
didn't
say in the
remember that.
movie because someone asked Ponyboy like, "What's the deal with that name?" And he's like, "My dad like was really creative or like crazy names or something like that." So they do mention that, but it would just make more sense to me if all the kids were named like something weird.
Right. I mean, everybody can pick the name, but they should work together. You know? I
Yeah.
don't know.
Also,
It's
what's a
silly.
Ponyboy?
Just like a pony boy.
Ponyboy.
Like you like ponies and you're a boy. Pony boy.
I like ponies.
I call Desmond Kitten Boy. Same
Kitten
philosophy,
boy.
I guess.
Did you know that S.C. Hinton, the author, makes a cameo appearance in this movie?
Well, I
Do you
read
know
the
who she
trivia.
is?
She's the nurse that Dallas holds up with the switchblade at the hospital
Yeah.
and is like, "Let me out of here" or something.
Oh, that scene was kind of funny. He was like, "Get out of my face!" Yeah, he's like saying
He's a
like
real
terrible
hothead.
things to her.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a loser, man. He's a loser.
I don't like him at all.
As I told Sweetie, he's going to be the rape artist of the movie, but he's also kind of helpful. So
Yeah.
I feel slightly bad about calling him a rape artist, but
Conflicted.
he definitely is the rape artist of the movie.
Ooh, and I hated the part when Cherry's of course like talking so sweet to Ponyboy and they're like really close. He's like, "Oh, I'm in school with you," and she's like, "You are? Wow." And then she's like, "Oh, that Dallas is just terrible, terrible." And Ponyboy's like, "Yeah, he's the worst." And then like at the end of the night, she's like, "Do you think Dallas loves me?" And then it's like, "What the fuck?" Poor Ponyboy. Like, ugh, that's the worst.
Yeah.
That made me really sad.
Those bad guys. Yeah, apparently they like Diane Lane and it said that they like dated briefly on the set, her and Matt Dillon, but then it also said something about them like not getting along like from
Wasn't
that
there kind
scene
of a
or
big
something
age
like that.
difference between them?
I don't know. I mean, she looks young, but was she that young?
I thought so.
I don't recall.
I don't know.
She looks like. I mean, it's so interesting once obviously she's. I mean, how old is Diane Lane now? Like 55 or something. But she it looks like her, but it doesn't. Just from that, when you look at pictures of yourself from, let's say, like middle school and high school, how you look like you, but like your face is just like rounder from like just baby fat and just like because you're young. And like that's what she has going on. Like you can see the woman she's going to become, but it's just so funny how like that's your face when you're young, just because you're so new. That's how I look at my baby. I'm like, look at that baby face.
Yeah, we'll see. See what she turns out to be.
Look at that 6-week-old skin, little nugget. Okay, so okay. Last but not least, from me. Oh. I just wanted to say that seemed like from the trivia, S.E. Hinton was like obsessed with the kids from this movie.
Yeah.
Kids,
she was on the
boys.
set. She was like a part of a big part
heavily
of this movie.
involved, like loved all the guys. They're still like in contact and friends with her.
How old is she? So she wrote this book when she was like 14.
Yeah, really young.
Yeah. And so she put herself in Ponyboy, according to the reader's guide at the end of my copy that I read, sped read.
Interesting.
So she kind of sees herself as Ponyboy, or she was like writing through him or whatever. But yeah, she was young, so she's like Rob Lowe's age probably.
Right.
Which is crazy that like, so she was on this set like as a. Or no, because sorry.
No,
she
but
wrote
she
it
wrote
in
it
the
a while.
50s
Yeah.
when she was
she
14.
Looks,
but she's
she
still
looks
alive
older.
today?
She's still alive. Yeah, she all that tweet
Because if
storm.
you were... Okay. All right,
Shitstorm
sorry.
that happened.
Just confused myself.
Wait, I had one more thing to say. Oh, one more question. Who do you think was the hottest shirtless? Because I will say there's a lot of shirtless boys in this movie.
I don't remember.
Okay, well, two main ones are Patrick Swayze and Rob Lowe. Rob Lowe comes out of the shower, skinny as a rail, but good bod. Patrick Swayze, whew,
I mean, you can't beat that.
dang, how do you get that chiseled?
He's crazy.
He looked basically like an Adonis.
He's, dancer.
Yeah, I'll say it right now. He's good looking in this, and it was good to see him. I miss Pat. We all miss Pat. R.I.P. I will also say that Tom Cruise's character of Steve is annoying as fuck in this movie, and I wanted to shoot him. Now, apparently, he's kind of annoying in the book to, Soda Pop or whatever, who he's friends with.
He's not in it very much, honestly.
Yeah, but he's so annoying in this. The way, I mean, he is acting like Tom Cruise, but like even amped up even more. He's doing like backflips off car hoods. He's like eating a chocolate cake really messily, like it's all over his face. He always has like a shirtless denim vest on that just seems very gay, and is always like messing with the guys. I don't know. Steve seems like the friend you're like, oh God, like we all kind of hate Steve, but he like keeps hanging out with us.
Yeah, definitely. Bummer.
And he thinks he's like best friends with everybody, and you're like,
well,
God,
he
we
is
all
best friends
hate
with
Steve.
Soda Pop, supposedly. They're best friends.
Supposedly. They're just work friends.
Well, yeah, you know how that goes. They're real friends.
I don't know.
Yeah, so I don't know. Pat. I picked Pat.
Wait, did you in the book, remember I was telling you about how Rob Lowe said something about how weird Tom Cruise was, like, or that he always had girls in his room or something like that?
No, Matt Dillon. Matt Dillon was the one with who always had girls in his room, and they were like in awe of Matt Dillon because he just like had all these girls and would like carry a boombox around and like didn't really care about like authority. He just, I mean, Tom Cruise had been like staying in the guest room at the Sheen's house for like several months, so he hadn't known him beforehand, and just always like he thought he was good in his audition, but he was like, Tom Cruise went like to a place that was like crazy, and he like saw that then too. So yeah, he just kind of is like, he was a different kind of actor who was just like really turned up, basically.
Yeah, he does. He turned it up to an 11. I'm not that attracted to Matt Dillon. I think he has a weird shaped head or something.
He's like troll. Yeah, he's like a little trolly. I don't know.
Yeah. His head is square. I don't know.
Honestly, I'm shocked that they didn't get Kiefer Sutherland to do that part, because in the book he's supposed to have like blonde hair.
Yeah.
And I kept picturing like Kiefer Sutherland in The Lost Boys.
Right.
And I feel like he would have been the fine age for that character at this time.
Yeah.
Like, and they didn't mention him being in the audition, so I don't know.
Well, apparently Francis Ford Coppola like just like loved him, and like he didn't even have to
Matt
like
Dillon.
he could have like he could have like totally
'cause they
blown
were,
the
like,
audition, and he still would have
babelicious.
still would have like cast him. So he was the only like sure thing, I feel like, and the other guys were really like
And Ralph Macchio too was, I believe,
Yeah.
also. They only
Yeah.
ever read for their parts that they got.
oh, okay, so they were like shoo-ins. Yeah.
Everyone else was
But
like,
so I just read the Andrew McCarthy memoir, which he, I think he did audition or had known a lot of these guys anyway, around like same age, same time. It's a very somber memoir, I would say. The guy is very, he seems like very depressed, and talks about, his film career. And he's very critical of himself, and it's just, I don't know, it's just like way too serious for me. But some good little elements of like, like not as many as the Rob Lowe book, but like just rubbing elbows with like all these 80s people. But he does have a Liza Minnelli story as well, where he like went to her house after some party and hung out with her, and then they went for like a drive and like had all this like heart to
She
heart,
is
and
too
he like
trusting of
never
her fans.
Yeah, he like never saw her again, but like this epic night with Liza Minnelli. Like what?
wow. Cool. So strange. Wow. Yeah, I recommend
Really
the Rob
strange.
Lowe book.
And he
though.
talks about Rob Lowe a lot.
Yeah,
too.
Rob Lowe. A
'Cause
lot
they're
of
both
good.
in
Yeah,
St. Elmo's Fire.
a lot of good 80s stories in that book. So yeah, pick it up if you want to enjoy yourself. It's quite a delight.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else today?
No, I think that's it. Glad I finally watched this movie. I'd
Yeah.
heard a lot about it. Did it live up to my expectations? Not so much. I thought it would be more from what everyone kind of talked about it and how famous it was. But I'm glad I've seen it.
Same. Cool. All right. Well, come find us and tell us we're wrong on Twitter at the Sweetie Club or on Instagram at Large Marge Sent Us. Thank you as always for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Matt
Tell us,
Dillon,
Daddy
Bartis.
Bartis.